Hi, and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for the Expanse Season 2, Episode 13, Caliban's War. This video is a part of a series of videos where I review episodes of the Expanse, so I'll have to start off with a spoiler warning for the Expanse up to Season 2, Episode 13. If you haven't seen up to the Season 2 finale, you may not want to watch this video, otherwise some things may be spoiled for you. So I've been wondering if the season finale would live up to the high standard set earlier this season, as the season seemed to plateau a bit after the 5th episode, and although I don't think this episode was quite as good as episode 5, it was still great and a fantastic way to end a fantastic season. Besides, episode 5 set a really high bar, so it doesn't speak poorly at all of an episode not being able to live up to it, as this did come pretty damn close, as it was suspenseful as hell and had one hell of a shocking and moving ending. So the only thing the promos and other promotional material revealed about this episode was that there would be a proto-molecule creature on board the Rosinante. So that was the only thing about this episode I was expecting. However, I didn't realize that it would show so much character growth, because as suspenseful as the storyline was, it was the character growth that was most interesting about it. As we begin with Holden realizing how much of an obsessed ass that he's become and how he understands why Naomi left him, and realizing that he needs to change. And Naomi believed him, and the two of them seemed to reconcile. But then the proto-molecule attacked and Holden got pinned to the wall when it threw something at him, and he was forced to sit there where the proto-molecule attempted to get to the ship's core, which would kill them all. So it very much looked like Holden would die, as if, they did nothing, they would all die, but every plan they came up with to stop the proto-molecule involved killing Holden. So hearing the conversation between Holden and Naomi when they thought he would die was absolutely heart-wrenching. True to form, Naomi refused to accept that Holden would die, but Holden insisted he listened to her, and even bringing up the time where Miller insisted that he listened to him right before he died, and that was a pretty touching comparison. And Holden's sage words of advice was to take the others and just sit the whole thing out and not let herself be torn by revenge like he was. Now that was a heart-wrenching moment. We got a lot of other great character moments, such as I love the line when they first found the proto-molecule on the ship and Holden gave his plan to kill it, and Naomi was like, well, do you have a plan B? And his response was like, yeah, make sure plan A works. It's a pretty badass line, but it did turn out that they did in fact need a plan B. However, the scene where Holden and Amos attacked the proto-molecule was pretty interesting, how it never did outright attack them, not until they fired on it first. It did make me wonder if it was as hostile as they thought. And once it did have Holden pinned down, it seemed more concerned with getting to the energy source than it did with hurting Holden. But then again, getting to the energy source would mean killing everyone on board the ship, so there's that. But I'm saying is perhaps it had more of a survival instinct than it did a killing one. It was designed as a weapon, but I don't think they quite perfected it as one yet. So Amos had a lot of nice character moments too. First, he tried to save Holden but was forced to abandon him in order to save himself. And then the nice character moment he had with Holden and his, sort of rough way when he was thanking him for being a good man, because he said it was nice to not have to worry about being on the right side. And that was a nice moment for him, as he's basically just a thug or muscle who more follows rather than leads, and is happy to do so, but it actually makes him feel better about himself to know he's actually following someone who does the right thing. And it was also interesting getting his reaction to Naomi, who apologized for knocking him out, but he apologized for forcing her to, as he feels he should have just listened to her instead of trying to think for himself. So that's interesting as well, as he'll still, he's trying to find his way. But in the end, it was Prax who saved the day. The whole time where he was trying to be like, oh, don't kill it, it's people too, was a bit annoying. I thought he'd be more of a hindrance, but turned out he was a much-needed asset. In fact, it was interesting how Alex was so dismissive of him at first when he tried to tell him about his plan to lure the protomolecule away by attracting it to an energy source. So that was cool. It was absolutely amazing, a really cinematic scene where he and Naomi actually enacted the plan to drive it away. It was a truly intense scene, seeing Prax just stare down the protomolecule that was coming right for him. It was interesting how Prax hesitated while Naomi was screaming at him that it wasn't his daughter. But the thing is, I think he realized himself that while he was staring at it, that it wasn't his daughter. And at the last minute, he threw the reactor into space, where we get this absolutely beautiful shot of the creature being, ignited by the engines. And, of course, at the end of the episode, we get the big reveal that his daughter May is indeed alive and being put into some sort of stasis on what appeared to be another moon of Jupiter. Still not sure what the hell the deal with Dr. Strickland is, or why exactly he needed her, but I'm starting to doubt that they were simply turning children into protomolecule creatures, as I believe there to be more to it than that, but that's just my wild guess. But of course, once the protomolecule is taken care of and Holden is safe, he believes everything is okay between himself and Naomi, and Naomi believes that, believes in him again. But she knows that there is, in fact, something between them, as she confesses about lying about destroying their sample of the protomolecule. It happens in this epic montage where all the various storylines of the episode are wrapped up while she gave her voiceover. This, in fact, reminded me a lot of the montage with Samwise Gamgee's voice at the end of The Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers, and I mean that in a good way, as that was an epic montage moment. But we get the added information that she in fact gave the protomolecule to Fred Johnson, and we see him staring at that. That was quite shocking and has some fascinating implications going forward. From what I understand, she sent him a message when she was on the somnambulist and thought that she was going to die because she didn't want their sample to be lost forever. And the explanation on how Earth and Mars has the molecule, so it makes sense for the belt to have it as well, was pretty convincing, but we'll see how Holden takes this information, as when she said she lied to him, he was like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter, whatever, we'll get through it. But once he learned what it actually was she was lying about, he looked pretty damn devastated. Personally, I hope that he doesn't toss her aside or shun her after learning this or something like that. That would annoy me. Instead, I hope they strive to deal with the consequences of her actions together, because Earth and Mars so far has done nothing good with the protomolecule. They each destroyed a colony, one of Eros and then of Ganymede, so I don't see what the belt having it would do any good. But at least she gave it to Fred Johnson and not that doll's asshole, but we'll see how this goes. So we also get the follow-up on Avasarala and Kochar and Draper being stranded on Mal's ship. I honestly wasn't sure where they'd go with this storyline, as it would surprise me if the episode started with Avasarala and the others safely back on the ship going, boy, that was crazy. But on the other hand, it wouldn't surprise me either if the episode began with the three of them in the prison cell. But instead, we went the direction of continuing immediately after where the last scene ended, where shootout ensued. That was pretty damn intense, leading to them hiding behind a table and creating a standoff, but one in which they were at a severe disadvantage, not to mention the fact that Cotillard was shot, which raises the stakes quite a bit. But Draper finds a way out, but it involves vigorously climbing, to which, she says they're probably not up to, and I absolutely love the exchange between them of Avasarala saying, "Damn it, not because I'm old, but because he's shot," and Cotillard is like, "Oh yeah, and also because she's old." That was absolutely great. It adds so much to the show that it is so intense and serious, but it has these perfect moments of levity like this that works so well in adding humor to the show. And this one in particular was quite funny. But then Cotillard reveals to Draper that, he brought her battle suit with them and that she needs to go back to their ship and get it so she can come back and rescue them. Now, that's pretty interesting, but I still don't see why he didn't give her a gun. If he trusts her enough to bring her suit, you think he'd at least give her a gun. It seems to me that they would be in better shape if he did. And for that matter, why not just leave her on the ship with the suit with instructions to come rescue them if need be, rather than having her come along where she serves no purpose without a gun, making her have to go all the way back for her suit and then come all the way back to rescue them. But anyway, seeing her journey to try to get back to the ship was pretty badass, and we got a few more moments of levity when she came across a couple of guys with guns, and she takes one of their guns but is unable to use it. I think it's because the gun was keyed to a specific user and like the DNA or whatever, and the guy sort of mocks her by saying oops, but then she beats the ever-loving shit out of both of them and then says oops just after she knocks the guy out. That was an absolutely amazing badass Draper moment. I absolutely love this character. And then we get her encounter with the electrician, who threatens to lock down all the airlocks to keep her from killing him, but she then points out that if he does do that, then she'll have no reason not to kill him. So she talks him into letting her go back to the ship as she promises not to kill him. And then he asks if she could rough him up a bit and stuff him into a locker so it looks like he was overpowered. And I absolutely loved the look that she gave him. It was another golden comedic moment. It was like, yeah, sure, I'd be happy to kick your ass. So the scene cuts here. So some may speculate that maybe she went back on her word and killed him anyway, but I don't think she did, because I think she was being sincere when she made that speech about, his boss not be worth being dying for. Because I think she was thinking about her team, who all died for people who didn't deserve it because they had betrayed them all anyway. So I do think she felt a sort of kinship with him. That being said, I'm sure she was happy to kick his ass for him when he asked. We also get some golden moments with Avasarala and Cotillard. I love these characters and their interactions. I hope to see much more of them in the future. So I'm absolutely glad that they survived this. It was, pretty skeezy how they offered him free passage if he gave up Avasarala. I have a feeling he never intended to do it, and even though he acted like he was going to, because I think he knew that they were bullshitting and that their main plan was to kill them all, as that's the only way Mal can continue his antics. And it was so golden seeing Draper in her suit come in and just totally kick those guys' asses. It does seem to me that they weren't expecting Draper to return, and Avasarala actually seems shocked. I suppose they may have doubted that she could pull it off, or maybe they thought that she'd just leave them behind after all, she doesn't really owe them any allegiance. But I think Avasarala is the only ally that she has now, and she just earned her trust in a huge way by saving her ass. The interesting question now is, what will Avasarala's next move be, and how will Ehrenreich try to counter it? He obviously intended for her to die there, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have a plan B if she survives that will discredit her or something like that, because she's still in a position to take both Ehrenreich and Mal down. So seeing the political struggle between them next season is going to be awesome. So finally, let me get to the storyline with the ship over Venus. Now, this storyline went pretty quickly, and we didn't really get a chance to know these characters involved that well. But it was interesting how the scientist and the captain guy had a pretty adversarial relationship to begin with. But here we see them sort of joking around with each other as they find that there's something strange going on in this crater where Eros crashed, but they still don't know what and can't figure out more until they get closer. But they both seem of the same mind that they wanted to figure out more. So they rush down there at great risk, but the Martians trailing them move faster and speed past them. But when they get down there, the ship stops abruptly and seems overrun by the proto-molecule, and then the whole ship is like ripped apart and everyone's just floating around. But it's my understanding that they aren't dying from Venus's harsh atmosphere and instead are some sort of like weird state, by the protomolecule or whatever. I'm still completely puzzled by what the hell is actually happening, and I have strong doubts that we'll see any of these characters alive again, but that scene certainly looked awesome, and I absolutely can't wait to see where this leads. One thing is for certain, there's definitely more going on with the protomolecule on Venus, and it simply didn't just disintegrate when Eros crashed. Exactly what's going on? I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. So my rating for Caliban's War out of 10 is a 10, the best. An absolutely amazing way to end the season that reminds me exactly why I love this show so much. This whole episode was an amazing, intense thrill ride throughout with moments of levity that fit and perfectly, as well as some great character moments combined with great filmmaking crafts such as amazing cinematography, music, and the editing. The editing was perfect. It was absolutely great the way each suspenseful moment in the different storylines were edited together perfectly to play off one another. It was just an example of an episode coming together absolutely perfectly that rivals and in fact exceeds most motion pictures, and I absolutely cannot wait for season 3, and I am so glad that it's already been renewed. So that's it for my review of Caliban's War, but not the end of my Expanse Season 2 coverage, as I'm very pleased to announce that I will be doing a live discussion video with Apkin Tomko and Josh and Anna from Geek Setters this Saturday night, that's US time, where we will be covering all of Season 2 of The Expanse, and I absolutely cannot wait to get into this season with some other YouTubers that love this show just as much as I do, so be sure to join us live in the chat for that. You can check out in the archives if the event has already happened. The link will be in the description below. Also be sure to check out my channel as I cover many other shows like Game of Thrones, Star Trek, Better Call Saul, The Leftovers, The 100, and more, so be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. And thanks a lot for watching.